Hello YouTube, this is a video, a long awaited video on the Encore Strat I've got. Yeah, finally I got around to doing this video. So, last time you saw the HSS Strat copy I got in trade for my Flying V, and it came along with this one, which is one I really wanted most, and a TC Mini Spark, which I haven't really had a chance to try yet because I've been out and about, and a little bit of cash. That was nice. So, you've seen the HSS, and this is the Encore. And it took me a long while to realise what this really was. Because as you can see, someone sanded off the logo. And I could see a vague outline of what was, I now know, the E, the rounded, like, looks like a 3, E for Encore. But I thought, is it a S for Squire? It could even be a backwards F Fender, you know. So I went through a process of finding out what it is. Yeah, and it definitely is an Indian, not Japanese, it's an Indian-made Encore Strat, also known as the Sun Mustang. Oh, it's under a different name. They're literally the same guitar, same factory, it's just different name on it. So let's go through the spec of this guitar. It has a body made out of some sort of wood. It is definitely wood. I can't tell you what it is. It's probably basswood, that's just a guess. The neck is maple, obviously. The fingerboard is rosewood, and very nice it is too. One humbucker, 2 single coil pickups. There you go. It's weird hex pole pieces on this, and it appears to be it's a lighter cream than the single coils, and the black pole piece is not chrome. So that and a few other little things, like the way it looks, that makes me think that it might well be aftermarket, or at least it's not made in the same place as the single coils were. Sorry about the glare from the sunlight. There we go. Yeah, so it was HSS stock. I wasn't sure if it was, but it was. Lovely pearl finish. It looks like the surface of a pearl. I don't know if you can see that sort of slightly misty colour, and I love that. As soon as I saw a picture of this guitar with the finish, I just said to myself, I need this. The truss rod isn't up that end, it's down that end. It's there, so I'd have to take the neck off to adjust it, which is really annoying, but that's how the Strats were in the 60s, which led me to think this might be a special issue Squire or something like that. But no, it's an Encore, and they just made it in that weird way like they did in the 60s. I'm actually toying with the idea of swapping out these bolts on the back, these bolts, with hex screws, because if you watch Real Love Guitars, Sam Deetz's channel, really good channel, he has a lot of these, and he builds his own travel guitars, and he replaces the bolts in the back of them with hex bolts. So there's an insert that goes through into the wood, so you're not constantly screwing in and out of the wood, and you could just tighten that and untighten it with a hex bolt, and that makes a lot of sense to me. If I need to keep taking the neck off to adjust the truss rod, I don't want to be weakening the wood. There's a bit of scratching around there where the paint's scratched, but the neck socket is perfectly tight. There's not a problem with it. I'm happy with it. Again, you saw me take this guitar entirely to pieces. So yeah, it's got quite a few little dings on the neck. It's a gloss neck. It feels slightly sticky. I'm again toying with the idea of rubbing it down to a nice satin to, if nothing else, get the bumps out of the neck. I do like the way the gloss looks and feels, and I definitely would like to go for a 60s sort of vibe on this guitar. Let's see, so it's got, you know, 1 volume 2 tone as you'd expect, 5-way switches as you'd expect, so it's humbucker middle, those two, and the neck. It's got a coil split, which I don't know if it's stock or not, but I'm impressed if it is, for the humbucker. I really don't believe that's stock, because it's a feature that's really been thought about, and the pot feels really quite high quality. When I pull it up, it feels different from the other ones, which do feel cheap. This feels like it's got a bit of quality, a bit of beans to it, which is a weird thing to say about a switch, but that's the way it feels. It feels nicer and smoother to turn than these ones do. So I think that might be aftermarket. A little bit of rust on these pickup pole pieces, but not on the humbucker, which again makes me think it might be aftermarket, but as we've seen, there's no branding on it. The bridge is a bit weird because it's 50 millimeters from E to E, and most Strats are, well, the narrowest one, the imports are 52. Lots of other ones are 54. You can even get some with 56mm from E string to E string. So I wouldn't be able to replace this bridge. I looked into getting steel saddles for it, because I thought it'd be a nice upgrade, and I can't find it. I can't find a new bridge or anything, so that's fine. I'll just lock this down. It'll be fine. 5-way switch feels fine. I don't think the switch tip is original, actually, because that's everything else is cream and this isn't. As you can see when we've raised these pickups there, the cover where it's hidden right now is white, so they're clearly aged, whereas this is again a different colour. Jack is fine, nothing wrong with it. The hole pattern and the size of scratch plate is very specific to this. I tried to buy an 8 screw scratch plate off eBay and it didn't fit. Quite simply, it was too big, especially around the bridge, because again, different string spacing, so you'd be left with a gap there and it wouldn't fit properly. So I've bought one off the guy from Real Love Guitars, Sam Deeks, because he's got one from a Sun Mustang which should fit, and that's SSS. I've got some nice Arnico pickups I got off eBay. I'm going to slap into it, so it's going to be good. Let's see. The last thing to talk about is, oh no, the nut's fine actually. I think it's a stock nut. It's just black plastic, but it's a little bit radiused and it's perfectly fine, perfectly serviceable. Cut really nicely. Yeah, I'm happy with that. A few dead spots on the, sorry, a few little grooves on the fretboard. That's because they're a bit old. They'll be polished out, I dare say. Single string tree and the tuners. Now we get to the weak point of the guitar. This guitar is great except for the tuners, which are awful. If you've tried the Squire Bullet Strats, you'll be familiar with this style of tuner. If you've tried any cheap Strat, you'll be familiar with this type of tuner, the trapezoids, and they're just awful. These are worse than the ones I've taken off the Ratocaster, I dare say, but not by enough that it would be worth me putting the Ratocaster ones on it to upgrade it, because they'd still be rubbish. So if I may have to do a few jump cuts because of any tuning issues. These are the strings that came on the guitar, because they're still perfectly new and reasonable and they're fine. I don't want to be taking this apart until I get the scratch plate through and I start my dark imaginings upon it. But until then, here it is. It's got quite a few knocks on it, especially on its arse. There you go. But as soon as, and on the back, it's got a few scratches and dings and such, but I love it. It smells really sweet, this guitar. Something about the finish smells sweet, which made me think it was nitro, but it is, I think it is polyurethane. But either way, this guitar is fantastic. The pickguard was white, it's just gone a little bit yellowed. I don't know if it will come out how yellowed it is, but it is slightly yellowed with age. That's everything to say about the spec of this guitar. A Strat's a Strat. You know now, apart from the bridge being a bit narrower, it basically is what it is. It does what it does, you know what a Strat is. It's got a very small neck on it, which I find extremely comfortable. So small that even I can do the whole thumb over Hendrix chord sort of thing, you know, rather than play it like that. So that's really freeing, because I find if I want to learn that sort of technique, if I learn it on a small neck like this, or my Esquire, my Fender Esquire's really got a small neck, slimmer than this, but it's not massively dissimilar. If I learn something on there, if it's easier, then I can then go to a bigger neck and I can play it fine. I can get used to it. Reverse is true. If I have problems with a thin neck playing something, I'll go to a thick neck guitar, and, you know. So, enough of my yakking. Let's see how it sounds. Okay, so I'm going to go through all the settings. I'm going to go from front to back first, and then we'll talk about the coil splits, and I'll go through that as well. So, here we go. This is clean channel. Okay, so when I tap the humbucker, it turns off one of the coils. In this case, it turns off that one. So we're only using the inner coil, which is unusual. Normally you'd expect the outer coil to be the one used, which again might mean it's aftermarket. I can't tell you. When it's split though, the output between the humbucker, or rather the split single coil, and one of the other single coils is quite similar. So there's not a noticeable volume drop, and you do tend to get that on guitars. I had that on my Core X11 with the EMG HZ pickups. Where they were split, you did get a noticeable drop, and it was really annoying. So, and that's quite similar to the Duncan Full Shred, the way it's wound, which makes me curious about what this is, whether it's a clone of it or something. So anyway, here we go. Let's go through the positions with the split humbucker. Split humbucker, and it's the middle position pickup. So you can hear that. Okay, so I'm going to compare the split humbucker to the full humbucker. So I'll go from full, and I'll hit a chord, and then I'll pull it, and you'll hear if there's any distinct volume drop. There's always a trade-off with HSS Strats. If you get a low output humbucker and you split it, it's going to be quieter than the pickup single coils. But full, it's going to sound as loud as the single coils. If you go for a high output humbucker and then split it, the split will sound as loud as the single coils, but the humbucker itself, when not split, will be quite a bit louder. So again, you can probably use pickup heights, and you can probably compensate by raising or lowering, either raising these pickups or lowering the humbucker. There's ways you could probably get around it, largely. So let's go into the drive channels now. And the neck. Love the neck pickup on this guitar. Okay, so let's go for the split position again. So it's a split humbucker. So there we go. First, let's compare the split bridge to the split humbucker, and then the full humbucker to the neck. Just to, yeah. So I'm going to go split humbucker to neck, and then full humbucker to neck, just to show you what volume drop there is. So. So you can see quite a nice range of sounds out of this. I really like these single coil pickups. They've got some sort of metal plate on the bottom, which is what 60s pickups had, and I suppose they're just cheap ceramic ones. I couldn't even tell you. But I know the 60s ones had a base plate stuck to them, and that's a way of making single coils sound a bit snappier somehow. I'm not quite sure exactly how that works, but there you go. These are the sounds from this guitar. So there you go, those are all the sounds from this guitar. And it plays lovely, feels great. I got this for the equivalent of about 50 quid. I'd highly recommend you trying one if you get one. I've since realised that a former friend of mine had one of these. I didn't realise what it was at the time. It had been completely stripped bare of the finish, except for a little bit in the recess where it hadn't quite come off, and it was this pickup layout. It was that with the hex screws, and I couldn't figure out what it was. I think it had hex screws. It was quite rusted though, and there were, yeah, it was definitely one of these. Same bridge as well. I recognise the bridge. So there are a few of these about, and they're not really worth a lot of money, but they are really fine guitars. It just oozes build quality. It feels solid. It's not massively heavy, but it's definitely reassuringly weighty. It's not a light Strat as Strats go, despite it having a small neck and small bridge distance and all that. And I'd probably say slightly smaller body and smaller scratch plate. But hey, it's a great guitar. You really can't knock it for the money. Again, my plan is to put 3 single coils in this Alnico ones and make it sort of a 60s Strat tribute sort of thing. Probably leave the headstock blank or put a joke decal on there. I don't like putting Fender ones on, that's silly. So that's my Encore Strat. Thank you very much for watching. Leave any questions in the comments and I'll try my best to get to them. I hope this video has been helpful. If you want to look what's inside it, just go on my previous channel, go on my previous video, like 2 videos back, and I've got a video of me stripping this completely apart, like bolts and everything, to see what it is. So, thank you very much for watching. See you next time. Bye.